This was a rather scary story that Investigation Team X encountered. Captain Lee and Inspector Leo returned to the headquarters after a long business trip. Leo was feeling hungry now and was about to ask Captain Leo to eat. But suddenly, Captain Lee's cell phone rang. After hearing a few sentences, Captain Leo's expression suddenly changed.
"Hurry up! Another strange case!"
Captain Lee urged Leo to hurry up back to the interrogation room. It seemed that this was an extremely bizarre and creepy case that made Captain Lee care especially. The incident happened in an apartment building in the city. Here, a group of people from the management wanted to enter a woman's house to check. They suspected the girl was doing something illegal. But the girl resolutely prevented them and said that they dared not to enter the house illegally. By this time, the police were also present.
"Okay, calm down and tell me what's wrong,"
the policeman intervened. The woman who managed the apartment building said that many people suspected that this girl was abusing children. This girl bought a house here about a year ago and lived alone. But what was confusing was that she bought a lot of food every day, like cooking for 3 to 4 people. Moreover, she lived a closed life and did not communicate with anyone. Since the declaration of information had not been completed, the manager had to come and urge her many times. But every time this girl didn't want to talk, so the manager kept knocking on the door in anger. It took a long time for her to open the door and look annoyed. Then the girl said that she would take a photocopy of the information and add it to the management later. After saying that, she slammed the door with a very cold attitude. Another strange thing was that day a person was taking her grandson to play in the park when she saw this girl passing by. Suddenly, her 4-year-old grandson burst into tears when he saw this woman. The older woman felt very strange. So she comforted the little grandchild and asked him why he was crying. But she didn't expect that the little grandchild would scare her so much that she was speechless. The child said that there were many ghosts of boys on the back of the other woman. They were hugging her, looking very scary. Although the older woman could not see anything, she thought that children's eyes were pure and could see dirty things. She thought that the child could not lie. So the people around the apartment gathered to see if there was anything shady inside this girl's house. The police almost laughed when they heard those myths and said,
"You have a good intention, but you really shouldn't invade others' privacy, okay?"
The policeman then turned to the girl and asked this girl to show her identification. At this point, she was really a little worried. This made the police suddenly a little suspicious. When the police wanted to see her papers, the girl thought and hesitated for a moment. Finally, she went back into the house and took her ID card and showed it to them. But he found it very strange. It turned out that the date of birth on the ID card showed that the woman was born in 1974. But the police did not believe it because the woman looked 25 years old, not a woman in her 40s. He also began to wonder if this woman was scamming to use other people's identity information to carry out illegal activities. So he wanted to go into her house to check. The woman knew that she could not prevent the police from entering the house to investigate, but she still fiercely blocked the door and made sure no one was allowed in. This made him even more suspicious, so he pushed the woman aside. The policeman entered the house and began to check each room. The woman at this point was very nervous and started shaking. When the policeman opened the bedroom door, he was shocked by the scene inside. There was no bed or table in the room, only 2 skinny boys sitting on the floor looking very weak. Seeing the police approaching, the 2 boys froze for a long time before trying to call for help.
"Police! Policeman, help! Help save us, please!"
The policeman immediately called their headquarters and called an ambulance. Moments later, police and paramedics arrived. The woman was arrested by the police and taken to the station. The two boys were also taken into the hospital by medical staff for treatment. When questioned by the police, the woman only admitted that she had caused minor injuries to the boys, but she was silent when asked about how she did it. All the stories of the case were told by the boy who was being treated. The boy said that the woman was very scary. It was a terrible nightmare for two 12-year-old boys. The boy said the woman was a vampire. He said that he was an orphan in an orphanage. At the age of 8, he was adopted by this beautiful aunt. This made the boy very happy. The woman looked gentle. That night, she also made a big pot of chicken for the boy and said that it nourished his body. The boy said that the chicken had many red dates in it and it tasted a bit strange, but he still ate it very well because he had never eaten so well. Meanwhile, the other woman kept looking at the boy and smiling. Then the woman carried another pot of chicken into the bedroom, saying that there was another brother in the house. However, the boy never saw his brother. At that moment, the woman suddenly looked very scary. She gave a sinister smile. That night, the woman let the boy sleep with her. At that time, the boy felt a little strange. The boy, who had never had parents, suddenly lived in a beautiful house, seeing the silhouette of a gentle mother from the woman. He felt very happy and lucky. After dinner, the boy felt sleepy and soon he fell asleep. He didn't know how long he slept. The boy suddenly felt a sharp pain in his arm. The pain woke him up. Suddenly, the boy was startled by what happened before his eyes. The woman used a knife to make a small cut on the boy's arm and was sticking out her long tongue to suck his blood. The boy didn't know how much blood the woman sucked to make his head dizzy. Her appearance at that time looked very strange and extremely scary. The boy withdrew his arm, clutched the wound and shivered at her. The woman wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and said, "He was a blood slave." The woman then threw the boy into the room with the brother she had told him about earlier. It was then that the boy saw his older brother. He also was a boy about his age, but he looked very thin. From then on, the woman took a cup filled with the blood of one of the two boys every day. The woman held an electric baton every day to threaten if the two children dared to resist. That woman barely ate any other foods, only drinking a cup of their blood a day. After that, the boy was saved and the woman was quickly arrested. This case was very strange. So she would be taken by Captain Lee next. After receiving the case, Captain Lee and Inspector Leo went to the interrogation room of the police station. On the way here, Captain Lee briefly reviewed the details of the case to facilitate the interrogation of the female vampire. After being arrested, this woman confessed to the crime, but did not disclose the motive for the crime. This made the police suspect that there were many other accomplices. In the interrogation room, the girl appeared taciturn, lowering her head with a blank expression. When meeting Captain Lee and Inspector Leo, the girl remained adamantly silent. "I think you should frankly tell the truth. It will be good for you." Captain Lee began to interrogate her. She said that she pleaded guilty. In addition to the other two children, she also killed 3 other children, but she still refused to disclose the process and motive of the crime. Captain Lee told her that the police had collected some important evidence. They investigated her records and learned that she worked as a PhD student for a wildlife institute after graduating in 1995. She had worked there for a year and then abruptly quit without explaining why, and she completely disappeared after that. The problem lay in that research institute. Suddenly, Captain Lee mentioned the name of Dr. John. Unexpectedly, the woman was surprised to hear the name Dr. John. At the same time, she used to be arrested for stealing blood bags from the hospital. Captain Lee confidently said that all of the information had been thoroughly investigated by the police and hoped she would cooperate. Hearing this, Knowing that she couldn't hide it anymore, the woman began to tell everything. She started sobbing and said that she was Dr. John's student, and not only did he become a vampire, but so did she. Previously, her real name was Lena, and she graduated with honors in pharmacy. Then she applied for a job at a foreign-funded biotechnology company. This news made Lena very excited. Her salary when practicing here was also very high. And the person who guided her at the time was Dr. John, a knowledgeable and very talented person. However, the biological experiment project that Dr. John took her to see was extremely mysterious. He let her participate in this project only, but she didn't think much of it. At this point, she followed Dr. John into the study every day. After working for several months, she was still not sure what this project was exactly. She was only assigned to record data while Dr. John drew blood from various animals every day. Gradually, she also felt the strangeness of this project because the blood research exceeded the normal pharmacology work. Once, while Lena was reviewing the data, Dr. John suddenly walked into the lab and asked what she was doing. She thought that Dr. John would get angry, but on the contrary, he was happy to say that the experiment was successful and then asked for help. This time, Dr. John took some blood samples from her and wanted to do a new experiment. Dr. John didn't explain her questions. He just said that his ultimate goal was to experiment with human blood samples.
Okay, Lena, can you help me with this?
He took out a pill from a small box and wanted Lena to take it.
Please take the pill.
Then let's see the results. He said that he wanted to see if the reaction of women's blood was different from that of men's when it reacted to drugs. Feeling that Lena was a little suspicious, Dr. John said that he would take this pill first.
Do you know how long it will take for a set of clinical trials to enter human trials?
He asked Lena. After he finished speaking, he immediately put the medicine in his mouth and swallowed it. After taking one pill, he handed the remaining pill in the small box to Lena. At that time, Lena had no way to refuse, so she reached out and took the pill. Under John's eager gaze, Lena had no choice but to use her body to test drugs like him. Lena hesitated. She did not know what would happen to herself if she took this pill into her stomach. Then Dr. John told her to keep an eye on her body for the next days to see if she had any strange symptoms, and then let him know. 3 days passed and Dr. John did not come to the research center. Lena was hanging around in the laboratory all day. But today he suddenly appeared out of nowhere, making Lena jump. Dr. John's eyes were sunken, his cheeks were thin, his appearance frightened Lena. He seemed a bit surprised when he knew that Lena's body did not react after taking the pill. He took some blood samples from her hand and examined them carefully. Seeing Dr. John's mental state at the time, Lena became a bit worried and felt that something was wrong with her. After observing for a long time, Dr. John suddenly banged the table very angrily. He didn't understand where he went wrong. After showing anger, suddenly Dr. John's body went into shock. His eyes widened suddenly and he seemed very uncomfortable in his body. He suddenly fell to his knees, vomiting a lot of blood. The scene was terrifying. The amount of blood he vomited was very large, which caused Lena to panic. She stood beside him for a long time without daring to move. After a while, Lena rushed over to help Dr. John up and said she would call an ambulance. But when he heard Lena about to call an ambulance, he immediately shouted at her. His reaction scared Lena because she had never seen Dr. John like this. Perhaps knowing that she was in a state of panic, Dr. John said he was fine. He told her by all means not to tell anyone. The next day when she entered the laboratory, Lena saw that the door was not locked. She thought that Dr. John had arrived early today. Suddenly, the scene in front of her startled her. Dr. John was holding a bag of blood and drinking it. He looked very thirsty. Hearing the sound, Dr. John quickly turned his head to look at her. His appearance was very scary. His mouth was covered with fresh blood. Dr. John was now staring at Lena with bloodshot eyes as if he had lost his eyes.
Human blood. Only human blood works. It's human blood.
Then he smiled strangely at her and said scary things. Not stopping there, he looked straight at Lena and said it would be like to test fresh human blood. So immediately he charged towards her with great ferocity. Lena then screamed and turned to run out. She was terribly scared. Then Lena's screams seemed to have brought Dr. John back to his senses. He stopped chasing her. However, Dr. John's condition was still terrifying. A pair of bloodshot eyes fixed on Lena. Suddenly he said that the experiment was successful. However, he couldn't control it. He told Lena to be careful.
It's a new step. Vampires will be back,
he said as he turned away. Even more frightening was that Lena also accidentally took that drug. Lena's whole body was shaking. She was confused if she would become like Dr. John. That was also the last time Lena saw Dr. John. But within a few days, many strange cases happened. The dead person was a young woman in a red shirt, believed to have been sucked to death. Since that case, tragedies like this have happened one after another. The victims were all girls in red. It was said that the killer targeted women who often went alone, and that murderer did not steal anything but only sucked human blood. After a few female corpses were drained of blood, the entire city was engulfed in an atmosphere of terror. It was rumored that vampires had appeared. It was said that they had seen vampires in a park near the outskirts of the city. An older man doing morning exercises saw a man holding a live rooster on the grass. His mouth was full of blood and he looked horrible. It was Dr. John. He had completely lost his mind and became a real vampire. Since then, no one had seen him again. But the legend of modern vampires had spread across the country. The research institute immediately shut down the case about Dr. John. After that, Lena also quit. Then Lena returned to her hometown to rest for a while, but did not expect the other pill to work for her.
So when did you start sucking blood?
Captain Lee looked at her with a serious expression. She said that was when she started researching Countess Dracula, as she was also affected by the drug. Countess Dracula was a powerful woman like Elizabeth Bathory. There were the demons that had sucked human blood since ancient times and used human blood to hold onto the beauty of youth. Captain Lee continued to ask Lena about her process of killing people to suck blood. And when it came to the blood-sucking process, Lena's tears welled up. She started to remember what happened. When she returned to her hometown, she stayed at home for a year. But during this time, her body also began to change. She became very bloodthirsty. Every time she saw blood, her heart burned. She desperately wanted to drink those drops of fresh blood. The bright red blood that looked so beautiful was like the most delicious delicacy in the world at this moment, tempting her. That intense bloodlust tormented her nerves every day, making her struggle a lot to suppress her thirst. It seemed that only the sensation of sucking blood into her mouth could make her feel alive. Unknowingly, she realized that she had become a vampire. Lena woke up with a start to find it was a terrible dream. A dream of being sucked into blood. That horrible dream appeared every night. Lena knew that the drug eventually had a side effect on her body, and she would also become a terrifying evil like Dr. John. That day, Lena tiredly went downstairs to eat with her mother. The strange thing was that since her body had a craving for blood, the food her mother usually cooked was like something difficult to swallow when she put it into her mouth. Every time she ate these normal meals, she felt very nauseous, had difficulty swallowing and was always in a state of weakness. Finally, one day she couldn't take it anymore. As soon as the food entered her mouth, she felt very disgusted, so she rushed to the toilet. Lena vomited out all the food in her stomach. At that time, her mother thought that Lena might be pregnant, but thinking about it again, she couldn't be because her daughter had been in the house all the time. Lena couldn't tell her family about it, but she couldn't eat food. She knew that she could only rely on herself and could not depend on anyone else. She did her research about her condition. Unexpectedly in history, there was such a person called Elizabeth Bathory, a countess of Hungary in medieval Europe. She was called the Vampire and was an extremely scary character. At this point, Lena realized that Dr. John's so-called EB project was the English abbreviation of Countess Dracula, and the project was a secret study of human blood based on the true events. Dracula. According to the legend, the vampire, Countess would use money and power to kill the handmaidens and peasant girls with the help of evil soldiers. She killed the girls because she was haunted by ancient magic. She believed that the blood of young girls would make her immortal and always young and beautiful. She took the fresh blood of the girls she had just killed as quickly as possible, drinking a large glass of blood every day. She even bathed regularly with the girls' blood, which she believed would make her skin youthful. Indeed, she was known as the first beauty of Europe. She had charmed countless young gentlemen. When she was in her 50s, there were still young knights fighting to snatch her. It was also said that the more than 600 young girls were killed, and all their bones piled up on the ground floor of a bathroom. After the Countess's death, her castle was haunted. So the Hungarian government sealed the castle to prevent people from coming near it. Lena finally understood that Dr. John was based on the events of the vampire countess, and he used the mysterious substance extracted from the blood as medicine to delay aging. But she didn't know why its side effect was turning humans into vampires. She knew she could not escape this misfortune, so she tried to suck the blood of animals in a basement to survive. At first, because her body was very hungry, she felt very satisfied as soon as she sucked the blood of the animals. Those drops of blood were like a kind of elixir. It could make her body satisfied, even shaking with excitement. But once this sense of satisfaction passed, she felt she had truly become a complete demon, and gradually the blood of the little animals could no longer satisfy her. The human blood seemed to constantly give off an aura of seduction, seducing her. Sometimes she couldn't control her body anymore. The feeling of crazed bloodlust from within her body grew stronger and stronger. Many times she approached her mother unconsciously, wanting to bite and drink blood, almost uncontrollably. At this point, she knew that she couldn't stay at home anymore, or she would harm her mother. The desire to drink human blood caused her a lot of pain every day in the struggle between will and body. But animal blood could no longer satisfy herself. She desperately needed human blood. So she went to the city. Thanks to being a high-achieving medical student, she quickly found a job in a hospital. But her real purpose was to use her work to satisfy her desire to drink human blood. When people weren't paying attention, she would secretly go into the hospital's blood storage and steal the blood that the doctors prepared for the surgery. As she sucked human blood into her mouth, she felt such intense satisfaction that her whole body trembled again. But in the world, there was no secret action that was not exposed. After more than a year, her secret was suddenly discovered. While entering the warehouse to draw blood for surgery, a doctor accidentally saw a horrifying scene before his eyes. The doctor ran outside screaming in fear, and also, she knew that her days of drinking blood were over. She was kicked out of the hospital, and because of an internal announcement from the health system, she couldn't find work in this industry anywhere anymore. Walking on the busy street, she looked for blood everywhere, But she was a girl, unable to attack others to get blood, and she didn't dare to do it either. Just when she thought she would die like this, she suddenly found hope. She saw a child begging on the street, which caused her to come up with a terrible and evil plan. She walked up to the child and left some money for the child. Her actions made a good impression on the child. She won the child's trust and quickly brought the child home with a warm and kind smile. She took the child to a health check, bathed the child herself at home, and made nutritious food for him. But in the evening she gave the child sleeping pills, and while the child was fast asleep, she began to perform her behavior. She felt that she had truly become a demon, but she could not control her bloodlust. She used a knife to cut a line on the child's hand. This was the first time that blood had been directly drawn from a living person. This feeling was great for her, giving her an unprecedented sense of satisfaction, making her even more addicted to blood. Perhaps because of the pain, the sleeping child was startled awake. The child screamed when he saw Lena sucking his blood. The child was very strong. He pushed her to the ground and ran outside to find a way out. Lena knew that she couldn't let this child run away or her story might be exposed. So, she took a sharp knife and rushed towards the child and stabbed him in the stomach. The child fell to the ground in pain. He was almost dying. She was scared at first because she knew the consequences of murder anyway. But when she saw the blood slowly trickling out from under the child, her fear completely disappeared. In her eyes at that time, there were only pools of blood full of temptation. She stored and drank the child's blood for more than a month. During this time, every day she was very satisfied and excited. Fortunately, the child was a street child with no family, so no one cared about his disappearance. This case was never discovered. From then on, she often went looking for wandering children. She would also go to the orphanage to take the children for adoption, to force them to supply her with blood. So far, 3 boys had died in her hands. She also discovered that the blood of those teenagers could keep her young, so that she still looked like her 20s despite being in her 40s, so she couldn't stop sucking blood.
Whatever the reason, you must accept the severe punishment of the law if you commit murder,
Captain Lee said. After Modern Vampire Legend in 1995, another female vampire was also captured more than 20 years later. Suspect Lena sucked the blood of 9 children, of which 6 were blood slaves in her custody. The remaining 3 children were killed. Lena was sentenced to death in the first instance trial, executed that year.
Boss, did the vampire that existed 20 years ago mysteriously disappear like that? How can a vampire disappear for no reason?
Thought Captain Lee. To catch him, Captain Lee's team at that time sacrificed 2 people, but in the end the case fell into a deadlock. Captain Lee said that he would tell Leo about the story when he had a chance, and now both needed to eat a full meal.